Welcome! You are watching Weird Music History. I'm your host, Michael Merchant, aka Danger, and today we're going to be giving you some fun, cool, and weird, interesting facts about music. Today we're going to be talking about the one and only, the alien, the Martian, the space boy himself, David Bowie. David Bowie. Man, dude, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know much about David Bowie. I didn't know much about it, and I'm ashamed that I didn't know as much as I should have, because this cat just keeps getting cooler. The deeper I dug into this guy, he just gets cooler and cooler. He was just all over the place. What a character this guy was. But man, he just got cooler and cooler. So anyways, we're talking about the one and only, the space boy himself. The one undeniable fact that gingers do have a soul, David Bowie. So let's begin. Our first fact. Did you know that David Bowie, his first hit in the UK, 1969's A Space Odyssey, was used in the BBC's coverage of the moon landing? Crazy. Imagine having your song be like the song for people landing on the moon. That's crazy. The next fact. The fictional character that I'm sure we've all heard of, Major Tom, was created by Bowie and has appeared in 3 of Bowie's hits: 1969's A Space Odyssey, 1980's Ashes to Ashes, and 1996's Hello Space Boy. That's pretty cool. Created character. I'd like to do that. Maybe we create fake characters like the gorillas or something. He inspired a lot. You're going to see. This guy, so cool. Did you know that rock guitarist Peter Frampton, was Bowie's friend at school? His dad was the head of the art department, and he had gone on to play with guitar with Bowie many times during his career. What a fumble of freaking Frampton words that was. That's pretty cool. He went on to do crazy things too. That's insane. New fact. This one is fun. I really like this fact. Did you know that Bowie has this distinct look? We know Bowie's got this crazy distinct look. And one of those attributes is his eye. One of his eyes is permanently dilated. And the reason being is because when he was younger, him and his friend George Underwood got into a scuffle over a girl I'm guessing they both liked, and George Underwood punched him right in the eye and left his eye completely dilated. Permanently dilated. That's crazy. They actually, Underwood and Bowie actually ended up remaining good friends. They stayed on good terms. And Underwood actually did some of the artwork for David Bowie's earlier albums, which I thought was really interesting. Don't let small little petty things get in the way of true friendship. All right. Here's another cool fact. At the age of 17, he was interviewed by the BBC program as the founder of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Individuals. Long-haired men. He complained, it's not nice when people call you darling and all that. Which I can relate. Thanks, Bowie. It must have worked because no one's ever called me darling. Hell yeah. Go. Let it all out. Let it all hang. Okay. In 19 1967, David Bowie, the first his first single release was called The Laughing Gnome. And many of his fans argue that The Laughing Gnome is considered one of the worst songs he's ever recorded. But when Bowie suggested that fans should go on their phone and vote for what songs he should play during his 1990 world tour, The Laughing Gnome was the most requested song, and he actually didn't end up playing in it, which is unfortunate. That's it'd be like if I was 60 years old and someone asked me to play Ass Cheeks. I'd be like, I'd probably still do it, but like, okay, we're gonna just let this one go, let this one be, right? That's pretty funny. Around the time of Bowie's 1975 Young Americans album, Chick founder Nile Rodgers auditioned to play guitar in Bowie's band. He didn't get the part, but Rodgers later on produced one of his biggest and best-selling albums of David Bowie's career, 1983's Let's Dance. And what a record! Skyrocketed, which probably made them both infamous. And I guess it was probably for the best that he didn't end up just playing guitar. Ended up producing, probably doing some other stuff behind the scenes. Always good to hear. Good job, Nile Rodgers. Oh, yeah, and he was the founder of Chick, so even better. All right. Did you know that David Bowie once declined knighthood? In 2003, David Bowie declined knighthood, becoming knighted, which is crazy. But, I mean, like, why are we knighting David Bowie? Like, I remember when knights used to mean a thing, when people were really out. If you were knighted, you were somebody, you were out to defend the throne. Just kidding. I don't know shit. I'm just saying, just giving you some facts that I've come across that I thought were pretty cool. He declined it. Oh, well. He also declined the CBE in 2000. Another side note. All right. Let's get into some really cool stuff I found about David Bowie. This is where I was like, yo, this guy just keeps getting cooler and cooler. Like, obviously he was a space nut, which, ding, same. But he also later on was like, he got into some crazy shit. All right, so let's talk about some cool facts that I really liked about David Bowie that are kind of out there. Did you know David Bowie had a half-brother, and his half-brother was schizophrenic? His name was Terry, and Terry killed himself in 1985. Unfortunate. I apologize. And that is just unfortunate for anyone going through it. He was schizophrenic, half-brother. And because of that, apparently, it also was said that David Bowie became super paranoid about he became super paranoid about becoming insane like his brother. Especially during his era where he was overly paranoid on his coke benders and whatnot, which we're going to talk about now. Yes, David Bowie did a little blowback in his day, but it was kind of like normal back then, from what I've heard, at least, especially in the music industry. Anyways, not promoting or saying go do drugs, not at all. Don't do drugs, and if you do them responsibly. But there's a story that apparently David Bowie doesn't remember recording station to station. The engineer, there's a story from the engineer that says he would go around to every instrument and everywhere he was gonna be at, and he would dump piles, not lines, piles of coke everywhere he was at, so he wouldn't have to like get up to do anything. He'd just do them right there and then keep going to whatever he was doing in the studio. And he said there would just be piles of coke everywhere around the studio. And the engineer claims that he only did the coke to keep up with Bowie, but I find that a little hard to believe. He just that was the time, that was the era, and they were they were blowing it up. They were drinking tons of coke. They weren't drinking it, but they were using substances to make some of the best records ever. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best records ever. What else? You gotta keep the man up all night. He's got to have something to keep him going. Anyways, next one. He became very paranoid as well during this time that the Manson family was trying to kill him after they had already been arrested. I just found that pretty funny. He was paranoid. He was like, man, this is coming to get me. They're already locked up and gone away. That's pretty funny. Did you know? Here's another fact. Last fact before we get into story time. Did you know that David Bowie, he died 2 days after his 69th birthday, which was also the release of his last album, Black Star. Imagine that. Let me say that again. He died 2 days after his 69th birthday, and it was also the release of his last album, Black Star. That's crazy. All right. Now, let's get into story time. We're going to talk a little more about Bowie's paranoia. This guy, he was doing a bunch of drugs. He was a little paranoid, a little out there, and he was also obsessed with the occult, supposedly. Now, the story goes, apparently David Bowie became super paranoid while he was in L.A. He was recording and doing a bunch of, party L.A. stuff, and he became obsessed with the occult. He says that he was taken by witches, and that the witches wanted to have his baby because they were trying to spawn the child of Satan. And this all came from, I guess, I want to say I read it, his wife had done an interview, and she was talking about these things. Well, his, I don't think his first, but his second wife was giving an interview. I'm not completely sure if it was his first or second wife. One of his wives was giving an interview, and she got a crazy call from him, like middle of the night, and he's freaking out, paranoid. He's saying witches are trying to fuck him and have his baby to spawn Satan. And so she does everything she can. She calls a friend, has a friend drive around to pick him up. They don't know where he's at. He drives around. They tell him to get out by the street and stay there. They get him picked up, and they get him away from the situation. Shortly after, they bought a house together, I think in L.A. still. And it was a big white house that had an indoor pool. And apparently Bowie, being freaked out by his experience with the witches and stuff, had one night saw Satan in his pool, which led him to perform his own exorcism. He wouldn't let anyone else do the exorcism on him. So he got people to get all these things that you need to have it, and he performed his own exorcism. And the wife that is telling the story claims And she didn't believe any of it, and she was like, very skeptical of all the stuff that she was telling him. But that night of the exorcism, she swears up and down that she saw the shadow of a beast in the pool that she says resembled like gargoyles on top of like cathedrals like Notre Dame, which is insane. Imagine you buy this nice White House and Bowie's going through it. Was he fake? Was he full of it? Did David Bowie conquer Satan himself? These are the questions we yearn to learn. Now, last but not least, that was good story time. That's probably my favorite story I've heard about a celebrity so far. To short it all up, you heard it. It's crazy. That's just insane. All right. So, last but not least, I just wanted to talk about the movies that he was in. If you didn't know, David Bowie was not only a fashion icon, a brilliant musician, but was also an actor. So here's just a few movies I think you would enjoy or would like to go see. Weird in themselves. So here are movies with David Bowie in them. 1986's Jim Henson's Labyrinth. He played the Goblin King. I think everyone knows that one. But it became a cult classic. It was also, in fact, it was also considered a flop when it came out. But now it's a complete cult classic and people love it, and you probably see this movie in more people's homes than some Disney movies and stuff. Crazy. All right, but did you know he was also in The Prestige in 2006? In 1980... Wait, 18... I lost the number for this one. He was also in Martin Scorsese's The Temptation of Christ. Another one, he was 1976's The Man Who Fell to Earth. Beautiful. And he also voiced the character Lord Royal Highness in the U.S. cartoon SpongeBob SquarePants in 2007. So, those are the movies in which David Bowie was in. I hope you've enjoyed this time with me at Weird Music History. We talked about the one and only David Bowie. Insane, genius, weird, beautiful. We love it. This is Weird Music History. I'm Michael Merchant. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.